Welcome back to the First Choice TV show, your own show on Rawal TV from Monday to Friday between 6 to 8 p.m. We are talking about frauds with our very special guest, Ojar-Ali. And coming back to the fraud system, I remember I'm going to share one incident with you. My father was with Government of India as an investigating, very big investigating agency back in India. So he had a lot of complaints about bank frauds, basically the demand draft. They used to write the figure, the people used to increase the figure by putting up certain zeros opposite it and all. He went for the investigation. By that way, I think some millions of rupees were defrauded, and in majority of cases, some of the bank employees were also involved. And ultimately, he suggested the way when the demand draft is going out of bank, on the final figure, when you write, for example, $10,000 demand draft or $5,000 demand draft, put up a sellotape over it. So that if anybody is going to change the figure, he has to remove the sellotape. Ultimately, the paper will come out of it. So you cannot change. So that was a solution given, and it was adopted internationally later on by his name only. So since you have worked in bank, and you must have coming across a lot of such frauds and all that, problems, frauds and everything. So can you give something about like what was happening in banks, what sort of frauds were taking place in banks, and to some percentage, do you feel that bank employees are also related to these sort of frauds or not?
Well, I'm just going to say this in terms, I mean, we are bonded. I'm not saying there's, employees who are not in businesses. Yeah. It's not to blame anybody here as well. But it's interesting you're talking about your father and that concept, which I've never heard of, to be honest with you. But I mean, if you have in checks, also you want to make sure you write clearly, so nobody cannot, and usually the body and the figure is what they check it. But also there is a special pen, which is a gel pen, and if you go to the local stores, bookstores, it actually says for check writing. And it prevents it because it cannot lift the ink. And it's a gel. Now, there's similar pens that look very similar, but this is the one you have to see with the check. So what I say to clients is make sure and write
with that.
Well, you can write what you want, just sign with that. And that's what I do. I write it and I sign with that check.
With that pen.
With that pen, sorry. With that pen, absolutely. But I mean, there is the good, the bad, and the ugly wherever you go. So, but in terms of when you're looking into the bank, they get a little bit better in terms of preventing or trying to prevent a lot of fraud in the banks as well. But it's not to bash the banks, but unfortunately, yes, there are mistakes that happen too. But if it's going to be a large amount, unfortunately, you cannot protect a graph unless you go to the bank. Send everything, go to the bank and get a bank draft, because then they will protect the graph for you, and that's easier to read. If you're not sure what to write a check for, ask the questions. Who's it payable to? Just don't go and blindly send money to someone just because someone asks for money.
Yeah, especially these days when we are talking about banking and these kind of frauds and money, we have it came into notice, and it was a big news as well way back, that from an account every month a few cents were redirected or were deposited into some account, and it was happening with a whole lot of people, say thousands of people, and it was a huge money when it came out to be. And internationally, I mean, if we say internet banking or cyber banking or whatever it is, that has to be checked as well. What would you suggest to the viewers when those who are doing internet banking or paying their bills through the internet?
Basically, you need to actually check your statements.
Often.
Often daily. If you can do it weekly, you can do it monthly. It's better than not doing it.
Okay.
If you a very regular shopper like I am, keep your receipts. Keep your receipts. Because in the old days we didn't have internet banking, so we couldn't see it. Sign up for internet banking. There's some people who said, no, I don't use the internet.
Yes.
But I really think they should, update your passbooks. Some
Okay.
people are very traditional. They want their passbooks if they want to go to the bank. But as much as you can, but keep your receipts at the end of the month to confirm it with your statements. If you see something happens, I don't know if you are a victim or known victim of identity theft, the law is every 3 months you have to pull your credit file out and report any changes on that.
Okay.
So, I mean, people have to understand it's not for the new or younger people, but it is for the older people. Help them,
Okay.
educate them, basically. And this is what the book is about too. It's for any age group to pick it up, and maybe I should think about it. That's what it is.
Great, and that's why we ask our viewers of First Choice TV show and Raval TV to have her book, Mrs. Fraud and You. And Dan has explained in a very layman language all about the frauds and how you can protect yourself or how you can safeguard your identities, which is very helpful for your future as well, because in this country or all around the world, if your financial stuff or finances are compromised or are messed up, then it's very difficult to bring them back to the track. So it's better. It's better, as it is said. It's better to have the prevention. Prevention is always better than cure.
Absolutely, and the book is actually written in layman's terms. There's a little bit of humor to it. There's a little serious side to it as well. But I wanted people to be comfortable as much as possible in reading the book.
As the author of this book, the title is quite teasing, Mrs. Fraud.
Yes.
And it looks like a title of some mystery, Mrs. Fraud.
Fraud is a mystery.
Is a mystery.
That's right.
So who is Mrs. Fraud in the book?
Mrs. Fraud, it's you, myself, yourself. It can be a youth.
Okay.
It could be somebody living in Timbuktu. It can be anyone that has no color, gender, background, ethnic background, culture. It's anyone.
Okay.
Young kids. I mean, the kids now are they're much smarter than I am. But they get involved into lots of things that you'd be surprised. How their minds work. Really and truly, it's pretty much anybody your closest friend can be.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in those sense, I mean, the fraud, Mrs. Fraud is a word which is used for
Right.
all of.
Generalize it.
Yeah, it's a generalization of the of the term itself.
Right.
So we'll be discussing about now about when this book is going to be on the shelves and how the people can get it, where they can get it.
Well, the book is scheduled to be released by the end of this year.
Okay.
Possibly by the end of November as well. And certainly they can give me a call, 416-855-3544. You can go to my website, www.dianneojarali.com. That's a link to my website that has a service available, but you can email me or send me a message through that as well. The Mrs. Ford website will be up soon as well, and when I do have the book, I'll be honored to come back with the book itself.
Yeah, sure.
And we can talk about the book in more detail. But absolutely, you will be informed, and we will be selling the book as well.
Sure.
And coming back to the book, plot, it's a plot or something like that. The title looks very interesting and all
He
this
loves
thing.
the title.
It is written by a lady who is already Mrs. and Mrs. Fraud, and a very, very, very enlightening lady and enlightening personality. So how come this title came to your mind, Mrs. Fraud?
Yeah.
Because you do not look like you are saying it is me, you and he, but you don't look me as Mrs. Fraud.
I could be. No, like I said, the title came about because when I had the name, a lot of people do believe fraud is usually a male figure.
Yeah.
And really, so I think it's interesting that
To make it
see the
yes, to
difference.
To make it
Feminine.
wife of
It
a
accidentally happened this way.
Yeah.
My publicist said, "Why don't you shorten the name to Mr. Fraud and You?" And I said, "Okay." And then when I was googling it, I was associated with a Bollywood movie, and I was
Okay.
like,
There was already one such name.
yes, it was already one, so I didn't want to confuse people, and I said, okay, and it just fell into place, and even the picture on the front of the book.
Why not
looks like me.
we propose another, it was a Bollywood movie, so we make a Canadian or a Hollywood movie over it.
Why
Absolutely.
not? And definitely, you never know. I mean, in future we'll have that as
Yeah.
well, and we'll be discussing more about frauds and book. And this is what we, all of us, as a viewer, wherever you are living, whichever part of the world you are living and watching this show, it is very important for us to protect ourselves. And your identity is your biggest asset, I would say. Keep watching First Just TV show. We'll be back after a short break.